Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to show you an extremely common mistake that you need to avoid to win a lot more doubles matches. Now, this video is courtesy of Matt Lin. Make sure you subscribe to his awesome channel. I have put his link in the description below. All right, here we've got USC, UCLA on the other side, super high-level doubles. Let's check out this point, and let's notice a mistake that is made by USC that caused them to lose the point. All right, let's watch it one more time. This is what Vic Braden calls rushing the net to lose at a faster rate. All right, so let's talk about this. So you got a really good serve by the UCLA player, great return, and it goes right to the net player. Reflex volley. Now, this is a great shot. The lob up over the net player, beautifully executed. Now, here's the rule. When you lob your opponents in doubles successfully and you force them to switch, put your toes on the service line. So these two players right here need to move their toes and put their toes right on the service line. The reason is because when you get your opponents to switch, they typically lob the ball back. And if you get super tight to the net, then you just make it easy for their lob to go over your head, which is exactly what happens. Check this out. Here's a great lob up over the net player, and watch the players in red, USC. They get really tight. They move way up into the service boxes. Well, when the player in the back switches, they typically lob. So all they've done is given a tremendous amount of real estate behind them to lob over them and get that ball to dip into the court. And that's exactly what happens. A great lob up over their head, and then they have no chance of playing that ball. If when the lob had gone up and they popped it up over their opponent's head, and now they're coming in, if they had just stopped, well, I should say this player, if he had just stopped right there, and this player had just stopped right there, if they would have just stopped on the service line, putting their toes on the service line, then it would become nearly impossible for the opponent to lob over their head. Look, when your opponents switch, they typically lob. So if you move in and get tighter to the net, all you're doing is making it easier for your opponents to hit over you. But that's exactly what they do. They move up, and then the lob easily goes over their head. Now, let's look where this ball bounces. All right, so this ball bounces. Let's get it exactly where it bounces. So it's right about there. That ball bounces about 4 feet inside the baseline. So let's take it to where the ball is when the ball would be at overhead height. All right, so let's check this out. Overhead height, which is right about there. That's about the height where this player would have contacted that overhead. So here's the ball. That ball right now is right here. That ball is 3 feet behind the service line. That's it. So if he would have just stopped on the service line, then the lob that goes up over either player's head, they could have taken 1 or 2 steps back and just crushed an overhead. But because, again, they moved way inside the court, it made it much easier for the player back here, the UCLA player, to execute that lob. Now, you might say, yeah, but Ryan, what if they stop on the service line and the opponent doesn't lob? Well, that's okay. Then if they just hit a ground stroke, then you just move forward and cut it off and hit a volley. But you don't want to get super tight to the net, which is what they did. You don't want to get super tight to the net when you get your opponents to switch. This is basically written in stone. When you are playing doubles and you successfully lob over your opponent's head and you get them to switch sides, you want to move and put your toes on the service line, which means, let's say you're close to the net, you should actually move back, right? If you're close to the net, you should move back. And if you're in the back, you should move up. But the goal is to put your toes on the service line. Why am I saying put your toes on the service line? It's because if I don't say that, then people will stand I don't know, a foot or two in front of the service line thinking that they're on the service line. So I started years ago saying put your toes on the service line because it's very specific, what you're going to do and where you're going to stand. So this player right here, he should stop. This player is about to stop as well, but they don't. They keep moving in, and they make it very easy for the lob that's going to ensue. You're going to get a lob back. They make it very easy for that lob to then be executed perfectly up over their heads. All right, let's check this out on the strategy board.
Now, really quickly, what I absolutely love about doubles strategy is doubles is more of a mental game. Singles is more about physicality. Doubles is about mentality and strategy and how well you think and move and position on the court and pick targets, appropriate targets for the situation. If you take the top doubles team in the world, put them up against Nadal and Djokovic, I would put my money on the top doubles team as a doubles team. Split them up and have them play singles against Nadal and Djokovic, they're going to get killed, right? So doubles is an equalizer, and if you're smart and you move appropriately on the court, you can beat really high-level teams. All right, so we got the red team versus the blue team. This is what we saw. I know this is the server and server's partner, which is not what we just saw. The red team was returning, but ignore the letters here. Just pay attention to the colors. So we had the serve that came in. The returner hit it hard and low right to the net player. Net player hit a nice reflex volley that was right here. This player comes in and hits a slice lob. Loved this shot. And it went back here. Here's the problem. You see it every day on the tennis court. I would say this happens multiple times a game, every doubles match. Multiple times a game. This happens in every doubles match. A lob occurs, this team switches, and this team goes like this. And they go way up inside the court. Remember, this person is going to lob that ball 9 times out of 10. Every time you hit the ball, you have to think about the shot your opponent is going to hit back. That empathy, right? You put yourself in your opponent's shoes, you see the point from their vantage point, and you say to yourself, what shot are they going to hit? Well, when you lob your opponents and get them to switch, they typically lob it back. Well, what shot do you want to hit off that lob? You want to hit an overhead. Well, getting super tight to the net is not going to help you. The goal here is when you lob your opponent and they switch, you put your toes on the service line, not your heels, your toes. Really think of it that way. Put your toes on the service line. That way, when they hit that lob, even if it's a really good lob, you can move back just 2 steps and hit an overhead. And that's what would have happened. We would have seen, if these 2 players were here, we would have seen that UCLA player who made the ball land here, the USC player could have gone back 2 steps and hit an overhead. And when he hits that overhead, he's going to hit the overhead at the net player because they have less time to react. And at that level, they can absolutely hit a shot, an overhead from no man's land at the net player. When you move way inside the court, like Vic Braden said, it's called rushing the net to lose at a faster rate. When you lob your opponent and they switch, put your toes on the service line. Now, if they don't lob and they just hit a ground stroke, then you just move forward, volley it. If it's a high ball, you can take it to the net player. If it's a low ball, you can hit it back cross court. Maybe if they look like they're going to lob and they're off balance, you can move back away from the net again, put your toes on the service line. The goal is so simple. We just saw a team, a very high-level team, a team I would have no business being on the court with, right? I would never be able to beat those players, to be very honest, when it comes to level of play. But tennis is, and doubles especially, is a mental game. Everybody, I don't care if you're a beginner, I don't care if you're a pro, because I've seen pros, like literal top 20 players in the world, make the same mistake. When you lob your opponents, put your toes on the service line. And if you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.